of logical reasoning at Top Rankers. Along with me is Neelam ma'am, who happens to be my colleague. We both are going to help you decode CLAT paper, especially the logical reasoning section. Also, a lot of students have this confusion that if critical reasoning is some sort of common sense. By the end of this session, we are going to help you solve that riddle as well. Hi, Neelam ma'am. How are you doing?
Hi, Pankaj sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm absolutely fine. I hope you are doing well today.
I'm doing good, ma'am. Thank you.
As the notification is out, there is a lot of jitters among students,
Right.
especially those who are preparing for CLAT. And the LR section, which sometimes oscillates towards AR and sometimes it goes towards CR, is something which is very chaotic. So I'm going to pick your brain on a lot of questions and get to know what constitutes LR section.
Right.
So let's start with questions. So what is it that CLAT LR section test?
So, ma'am, if we discuss this particular question, we also need to know how this section has evolved over the period of time. I think this pattern that we see today was first introduced in the year 2020. And over all these years, we saw a lot of changes happen, to the entire paper. Earlier, it used to be 150 mark paper. Today, it is just 120 mark paper. There were 6 passages, 5 questions each. And from that, we have come to, today where we see 24 or 26 questions on this section. So earlier, it used to be just CR, but over the past 2 years, we saw AR, showing up again. So basically, if one were to describe what this particular section tests, it is your skill to solve both question types in a given period of time, which is close to 27 minutes. You have to solve questions on both analytical reasoning, which is related to numbers, series, and critical reasoning, which is related to language, where you're supposed to understand the argument, especially what author has on his or her mind, and answer the questions accordingly. So if I take critical reasoning per se, basically it is your ability to understand the argument. And when I say understand the argument, there are a lot of things that we need to understand simultaneously. What is author's primary argument? What author has on his mind, meaning the assumption behind the argument. If author is making some, error while he's reasoning or while he's saying something, we also need to, make some deductions from the information given to us. So there are a lot of things. Unlike English language, where tone of author, or profession, or source of passage are asked, here we don't see those questions, but we obviously see questions pertaining to inferences, assumptions, how author's argument can be supported, can be undermined, what exactly the flaw author is making in the argument. So these are the skills required by a student if he wants to score well on this particular section. Along with it, all these things need to be done, in a given period of time. So there's always a clock ticking on your head. And if you're able to do all these things well, you will definitely see yourself, in NLU Bangalore.
All right. So we have this comprehensive information about what really LR section tests. But $1 million question, sir. Can we really anticipate what is going to be tested this year, AR or CR?
I think even if we were to, we should not. The thing is, CLAT has been, unpredictable for past 2 to 3 years. So CLAT 2023 exam could be one exam which I can say was aligned with previous four exams. But after that, 24, 25, 26, we've seen a lot of changes. And if we keep wasting our time, so for example, when one complete AR set showed up in the year 2025, nobody had expected. Moreover, so we still kept telling everyone to work on AR as well, because even though it had not appeared during previous 4 to 5 years, we still told students to work on AR. Those who listened to us, they were doing good. And some of them, felt really bad after that. In the year 2026, we prepared students the similar way. In fact, there were a couple of mocks where the entire mock was dedicated to analytical reasoning. Yet, the common perception or the common view among the student was that 3 sets would be pertaining to critical reasoning and 1 would pertain to analytical reasoning. So we tested them similar way, during the entire year, and वो हो गया थप्पा कि there were just 7 questions on critical reasoning, that too in a form of ऐसे क्वेश्चंस हम लोगों ने जैट में देखे हैं. सो ये डिसीजन मेकिंग का सेट ज़्यादा था एंड वहाँ पे भी स्टूडेंट्स वर शॉक्ड अगेन. तो अगर मैं इस साल भी बोलूँ कि यू शुड एंटिसिपेट, इट वुड बी वेरी रॉन्ग ऑन माई पार्ट. डोंट ट्राई टू एंटिसिपेट. इनफैक्ट आपको पता है कि एनालिटिकल रीजनिंग एंड क्रिटिकल रीजनिंग दोनों आ सकते हैं. तो ट्राई एंड फॉर्मुलेट सम वे, जो कि हमने ऑलरेडी यूट्यूब पे डाल दिया है. आप उस स्ट्रेटजी को फॉलो करो ना, वेयर यू स्टॉप एंटिसिपेटिंग एंड यू स्टार्ट वर्किंग टुवर्ड्स व्हाटएवर वी हैव इन फ्रंट ऑफ अस. ऐसा.
So all of the students are advised to practice both the section AR and CR, and never say never. So you can't really anticipate what consortium is going to do this year. All right. So you have talked enough about the evolution of this exam.
Right.
Now I would like to ask the 5 important CR questions that keep coming in this exam, and that students need to master those questions.
Ma'am, I think we see evolution in terms of questions as well. So if we look at first 4 or 5 years, there were questions pertaining to assumptions, conclusions and inferences, and some questions pertain to strengthen and weaken. So these were 4 to 5, and a couple of questions dedicated to main idea. But after that, especially after 2023 exam, 24, 25, 26, we again saw some changes. Although the changes were very subtle, but yes, there were some changes. We also witnessed questions pertaining to parallel reasoning, flaws, paradoxes. So these questions also started to show up. And 2026 was a different paper altogether, because the entire argument was given to you in the form of a decision-making set, where questions may not pertain to. So there was one question on flaw, but then the other questions, you can put them in a specific detail category, right? Where you were required to understand the argument pretty well, understand what could be inferred from the given information, and all those questions can be put under the category of specific detail questions, but they were still some of those were still difficult to answer, or not exactly difficult, but tricky to answer. So 5 question types where students should pay utmost attention to is assumptions, strengthen, weaken, but they should also pay attention to flaws. They should pay attention to paradoxes, parallel reasoning questions, because these also we have seen these questions appear in the exam. So इस तरीके से 5. So you can categorize the questions in priority 1 and priority 2. Priority 1 questions may include main idea, उसके बाद inferences, conclusions, strengthen, weaken, assumptions, and बाद के questions पे जो कि priority 2 questions है, you can begin with flaws, paradoxes, parallel reasoning. These questions will also matter.
All right. So if some of you want to be selective, these are the 5 questions that you need to master to be in a safer zone. But of course, you need to conquer all the areas which are important for CR or LR point of view.
Right. Absolutely, ma'am. So, ma'am, even I've got a couple of questions for you. And a lot of students keep asking me those questions. And I really want you to answer those questions and clear the doubt once and for all. Should I begin with those questions?
Please.
So, ma'am, first question. We have spoken about how CLAT has evolved over the period of time. But now, if it comes to preparing for this particular section, especially critical reasoning, how students are, supposed to map premises, gaps in the argument, how students are supposed to identify assumptions in say 1 minute or 2 minutes that they get to read the passage.
All right. So this is one essential skill that they need to master, because whether the reasoning is based on paragraph or passage, they need to understand the argument of the author. And they also need to understand that every statement or every sentence is not an argument. Because an argument to have, you need at least two components. One is a premise and second is a conclusion. So they need to identify these two terms in any argument that they are dealing with. So a simple example would be like, recently I watched this movie, Odysseus. So if I say Odysseus is a great movie because it has been directed by Christopher Nolan. So this is my argument, because here my premise is it has been directed by Christopher Nolan. So that's my reason. And on the basis of that, the argument I'm making is it's a great movie. So that's my premise. So premise is basically the reason, the evidence, data, the statistics that you give in support of your argument.
And can examples be considered a part of premise?
Example, yes, of course. There could be multiple premise. In an argument, there could be 1, 2, 3 premise. But in a conclusion should be one. All these premise could be leading to one conclusion only. Like I can extend the premise and say, it's a great movie because it has been directed by Christopher Nolan. It's a great movie because it has gathered 264 million in the very opening weekend.
Yes.
So these are two premises which are leading to same conclusion. So here, whenever you have a reason, data, statistics, which lead to a specific point, that is your conclusion. Together, they make an argument. And the assumption here, if you are able to identify, the assumption here is something which is unstated. So here, when I give the example of Christopher Nolan directing the movie, and hence the movie is a great movie, my assumption is that whatever is directed by this director, this movie maker, is possibly of great cinematic value, and that's why it's a great movie. So,
and would I be wrong if I say that whenever we identify assumption, we need to think from the point of view of author writing the argument?
Of course, it's never reader's assumption.
Right.
That's what students have to learn, and they have to start training their brain to understand that it's never their assumption.
Right.
It's always author's assumption. Because students, get confused that what they infer, should that be the assumption or should it stick to the author's assumption? So get it very correct at the onset of your preparation only, that it's always author's assumption.
Right.
So I guess with this example, it's clear that not every statement is an argument. An argument, you need a premise and a conclusion, and anything which connects these two statements will be your assumption.
Right. And ma'am, one common query that I keep answering, this time I want you to answer this query and let students know what is the right course. Students keep asking me if they should work on LSAT questions in order to, train themselves for CLAT questions.
Well, I have always been a strong advocate for these international exam preparation as well as their content, because the kind of content they churn out is very qualitative, and I have hardly found any flaw in those questions. So I heavily rely on these content, GMAT or LSAT. They are CR question, because these are the exam which started testing CR, and we have replicated them. So of course, when you have the sources from the horse's mouth, why don't you rely on that? One. Second, we have seen in previous years that ALET has directly replicated questions from LSAT and Indianized them. The content was same, but the Indianized version was taken because LSAT is an American exam. The context was American. So they have directly copied some of the questions. So whenever I take those sheets in the class, I tell students that these were based on LSAT exam. So that's another reason. Third, of course, the committee which was appointed by Supreme Court to give the recommendation to consortium has also recommended exam to be replicated on the pattern of LSAT. So it goes without saying that they have also seen some merit in copying that exam and copying their pattern of reasoning rather than that reasoning which is very fickle and which is very unpredictable in our exam. And the sample paper which was released yesterday. So I have seen that sample paper. In those questions as well, they have picked up the same kind of terminology and the same kind of style of question which they have given in LSAT.
Yes. In fact, only the content related to legal reasoning was prepared by them. Otherwise, the content related to critical reasoning was taken up as it was and recommended in there. these people recommended to the consortium. Now the thing is, these recommendations are still not accepted. So let's make it very clear. These recommendations have not been accepted, and they are still recommendations. And the consortium is deliberating whether to accept them or not. And if I were to talk about students who wish to, take exam this year, the forms are anyway going to be out, I think, on 3rd of August.
Yes.
So if I talk about students who wish to take exam this year, how much of LSAT material should they include in their preparation every day? Because this year, we don't expect to see any changes. The paper is going to remain the way it is. So how much of LSAT material is supposed to be included in preparation this year?
I suppose the 5 questions type that you talked about, which are of paramount importance for CLAT preparation, LR preparation, I guess if they pick up these topics and try to practice from LSAT material, they will have an authentic practice.
Right.
The questions are not wrong. The options are infallible. And the reasoning is justified, right? Sometime you might have seen that previous year CLAT questions, though we try to justify some of them, but there are some questions which were deeply flawed.
Right.
And to have that kind of practice which is impeccable, you need a material which has had to be authenticated. So I guess those 5 questions, if they practice from LSAT material and they try to master those concepts from practicing, let's say 20 questions of each topic, they will have utmost clarity that what they need to do if a question of that variety and that style arises in their exam.
Right. So the takeaway that we can get from this answer is that yes, LSAT material is absolutely important, and especially for preparing those 5 questions. They include main idea, assumptions, strengthen, weaken, and conclusions and inferences. So LSAT material proves very important when we talk about preparing on these questions. Ma'am, there's another question. Usually students, they are able to eliminate 2 options. It's the other 2 options that they are worried about. And the students say that, whenever they choose the option, it's mostly the wrong option that they end up choosing. How they are supposed to overcome this particular problem?
Well, for that, I have one single mantra for all of them, that the answer is always there in the question. You need to read the stem very, very carefully. You have read the passage, you possibly have read the options as well, but you cursorily read your option. And you miss out very important information there. Sometimes, which of these options is going to weaken the main idea is not same as which of these options is going to weaken this particular point. Both are 2 different questions. So when you read only weaken, you assume that it's going to weaken this part of the passage. Don't assume that. Read the whole option and understand the requirement of the question, right? There could be an option which is there directly taken verbatim from the passage, but that statement is not answering the question. So for you to understand the question and the requirement and then, tell your brain what is it that you are looking for is very, very important. That is something that you need to do. Second, we have seen in CR at least that there are some traps which usually examiners lay before the candidates, right? Options are either very extreme, or they are out of context, or they are out of the scope, or they are distorting the author's opinion, right? Or they are making some logical fallacies, right? If author has just talked about a sufficient condition, and the option is, taking it to be a necessary condition.
Author is talking about necessary condition, but it cannot. It's not necessary that it is a sufficient condition.
Yeah. So
right.
Either ways. Right. So these are some traps that you need to be familiar with. And here I need to point out that you need to be familiar with all the logical fallacies which are very pertinent for CR section.
Right.
Because unless you understand them, you won't be able to deal with the flaw questions. And sometimes you will also fall into the trap of these options. So read the options carefully. Read not, except, unlikely. These words, they are very, very important. And when you are stuck between 2 options, let's say you have eliminated 2 options, you are stuck between 2 options. Go to the question again. That question is going to give you the clarity what you are looking for. And if that clarity is not sought through that reading, passage, redoing the passage or part of the passage where you feel the answer is there, reading that will give you more clarity.
So the takeaway that we get from the answer is, first you need to see if the question is asking you to strengthen or weaken a particular point or the primary argument stated in the passage. That is step number one. Then there may be some options that may weaken a particular point, but not the primary argument in the passage.
One more point I want to add on, because we discussed this exercise yesterday only, it's just really fresh in my memory. That is that author sometimes states something as his opinion and then sometimes he quotes someone else.
Right.
So discriminating what he's quoting and what he's saying himself is also very, very important.
Right. Absolutely. So yes, when it comes to, when you narrow down to two options, you need to see if that particular option strengthens the entire argument or just one of the points mentioned in the passage. And the answer should align with what is asked in the question. When it comes to conclusions and inferences, you are required to identify one option, that may be a little moderate in language. Words like all, never, every should not be there, because these options don't become your answers in most cases. Sometimes they do, but in most cases, they don't become your answers. Along with it, one thing that I would like to add from my side would be, we compare the two options, read them parallelly together, and we should see where they differ from each other. And, that is the important part. We should try to see if that part aligns with the information given to you in the argument. If yes, it happens to be your answer. If no, it cannot be your answer. Right. Okay. So
now I would like to ask a few questions. A lot of students struggle with the time management because 32 questions are from legal, 28 from GK. So they juggle with the time management because they have to do English as well as CR. So how do you think they should manage their time management during mocks?
So, ma'am, these days, so I was involved in a couple of mentorship sessions these days, and this question appeared often during those mentorship sessions. And I told every one of them to start working on both the sides of this section, analytical reasoning and logical reason, critical reasoning. So some of our mocks are entirely dedicated to analytical reasoning. Some of our mocks are dedicated to critical reasoning. Some mocks have both AR and CR. One thing that they need to understand is every minute matters. And if they were to start with analytical reasoning, they should not end up spending 10 minutes and realize that, oh, this set is not for us. Because if they do it for one time or maybe two times, they're done away with the time that they get for this particular section. So if you are supposed to fall, better leave your hands and fall quickly. Except, at the beginning of any section, any particular set that you are supposed to begin, if you're not comfortable with that, better leave it right there. Go for those questions that are easier, because CLAT does not say that easier questions get these many marks and difficult questions get these many marks. Both give
There's
you
no
equal.
Differential
There's
marking.
no differentiator. So basically, they should be able to identify if this is the set they will be able to solve. They should have that confidence. And sometimes what happens is the students, they see that they initially feel that they'll be able to solve the set, but when they begin, they realize they've already spent 2 or 3 minutes and there's no turning back now. And then they continue to invest more time only to find out that this set is not solvable, and they end up wasting 10 minutes. This is, the fatal mistake that they can make for themselves. So there is no harm in leaving that particular set, even if you have spent 2 minutes or 3 minutes already. So as soon as you realize is the time you leave that set and move to the next one. Because it may be difficult for you, it may be easy for someone else, but that is okay. We all have, we all think our own ways. We don't try to copy others. So if it's difficult for me, I should leave it there, go to other questions. And after the mock gets over, I should try to see why that particular set was difficult for me, but not during the mocks. So that is one. We should also go with a pre-mindset that we are supposed to give close to 25 to 26 minutes to this particular section. That means close to 1 minute per question, not more than that. That includes time to solve sets, all the calculations that we do, or diagrams that we draw, or readings, reading that we do on passages, everything. And after that, you'd see that you are left with around. So if it were a passage, it would be around 300, 325 words, or maybe 350 words. Good reading speed is close to 180, 200 words per minute. That is the kind of reading speed these students need to develop. And it can be done very easily. So we get 1.5 minutes to read the passage, and remaining 3 or 4 minutes to solve the questions. So if we go to that level, we find out that we have around 45 to 50 seconds to solve one question. And if we were to look at it cumulatively, where solving, marking the answer, everything is considered together, it will be around 5 minutes per set. And you get 4 sets or maybe 5 sets. That's how you end up spending your 25, 26 minutes. So if first you need to go for those questions, I'm summarizing everything. First, you need to go for those questions which are easier, which you think you can solve. Having spent 2 or 3 minutes, if you realize that this is not the set for you, leave it. Move to the next set. And this time you'll be able to save 4 minutes on the set. You were supposed to spend 5 minutes. You spent only 3 minutes or 2 minutes. You have saved 2 or 3 minutes. You can utilize those 2 or 3 minutes on other sets. So that way, if you go ahead, if you proceed and you try to solve all the questions in given time, you should be able to do that very easily. But the only problem is these students are so tempted when they have already invested 2 or 3 minutes that they cannot leave the set. And that is the key differentiator, because a good student knows this skill. An average student does not know this skill. And an average student is not able to leave questions. That is what makes him an average student.
Fair enough. These are very actionable inputs for you to manage your time.
Right.
And I guess now we can move on to the next section.
Absolutely, ma'am. So I have, one important question. Would you suggest English to be, or do you think English is a key contributor as far as critical reasoning is concerned?
Well, I always see these two sections as two inseparable sections. I always say that CR is nothing but the extension of English only, or the refined version of English only, the honed version of English only, because that's going to test your reasoning along with English. Of course, that goes without saying. You need to understand the passage, understand the author's argument, the nitty-gritties, the layers within layers which exist in a passage. You need to comprehend them fully in order to answer the questions. But having said that, I would only say that don't start treating this section as some kind of taboo, because it's 50% reading comprehension.
Right.
So we have mapped all the questions which appeared in last 5 years. So which of these authors agree with, which of these author disagrees with, which of these is correct, which of these is incorrect. There are 50% questions which fall into this category, that is detailing.
Right.
And the detailing is tested in English as well as CR. So it's not core CR, which consortium is testing. Rather, it's 50% questions are based on CR.
Right.
They are, of course, core questions, strengthening, weakening, assumption, inference, but 50% are reading comprehension. So if you nail this part, comprehending the passage fully, not assuming your, anything from your side, not falling into the trap, and reading between the line, mastering the skill of inferential reading, inferential understanding, I guess you're good to go for CR section as well.
Right.
So English is definitely important, but again, 50% questions.
Sometimes questions also differ, on these two sections. But again, it won't be wrong to say that critical reasoning borrows heavily from English language.
Yeah. So you should actually treat it as one section, which is going to test your 48 questions, provided CR comes this year.
Right. अच्छा हुआ आपने ये बोल दिया, नहीं तो 48 questions
Yeah.
सबको heart attack आ जाता. So ma'am, before I wrap up this session, one important question which a lot of students have is, can you suggest some strategies around this particular section? How one is supposed to improve if one is beginning one's preparation right now? How one is supposed to improve over the period of time?
So when you take a mock, most of the students come up with this query that their marks are stuck in a range 60, 70, sometimes 70, 80. So if you are specifically targeting your improvement in the mock, that you must be targeting, of course, then you should start practicing making the error logging.
Right.
That is one skill that you need to start doing. That is one practice that you should start doing, because that is going to give you data point about what you are making, what mistake you are making in this section. You may have a figment of imagination that you are very good at assumption or strengthen or weaken, but when it comes to creating the error log, you will see the data point that in 3 mocks continuously you are making mistakes in these questions only.
Right.
So you might have this impression, but the data is not supporting that. So when you have that error logging of last 3 to 4 to 5 mocks, I would suggest that in any mock or any section, if you're making more than 5 mistakes, you get down to error logging, note it down that why you made that mistake.
Right.
Be ruthless with yourself. So here, at this point of time, you don't have to be, rationalizing any mistake that you are making. Rather, you just need to be ruthless and tell yourself that this is a mistake that you made. This was the topic.
So guys, not ruthless in terms of fighting and everything. Ruthless in terms of error logging.
Of course. So here, you point out the reason for your mistake and the corrective action that you need to take before you take the next mock.
Right.
All I'm suggesting is that fail better in every mock, because if you keep on making the same mistake, you will have only yourself to blame.
ये तो मैं बहुत बार बोलता रहा हूँ, अरे भाई इतनी सारी mistakes है life में करने के लिए, same mistake
Yes,
क्यों
same
करनी?
mistake, right?
Right.
Mistakes are inevitable part of this whole journey. Even in your actual paper, you will make mistake.
Right.
But don't make same mistakes.
Same
Learn from your mistake, draw your lesson, and make it a point that you don't repeat that same mistake in the next mock. And then subsequently, when you keep on doing, eventually you will nail that. So that's something.
And जब मैं बोलता हूँ, if you have to fall quickly, it does not mean कि गिर जाना है. It means surrender that you're committing a mistake.
Yeah.
Accept that you're committing a mistake and उसके बाद work करना start कर दो. Because the longer you try to fight this particular fact that you're not making a mistake, the longer you're going to take time to begin corrective action.
Yes,
Right.
of course.
ठीक है मैम, it was a very fruitful session. I hope students got to learn a lot from you. So guys, we are going to come up with one more session, similar session pertaining to a different section, and stay tuned to our channel. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Pankaj sir.
Have a good day, guys. Have a good day. Thank you.